My name is Inely Cesna. I'm the founder of the Institute for Next Level Leadership, and so glad to be here with you after a month of vacation, a month of traveling away and taking care of family matters. I just want to give a shout out to my family in Brazil. There's a lot happening there. Light to all of them for the highest good. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
I almost said what I said when I first met you. I need no introduction, but I'm not going to do that. My name is Mike Murphy, and I am so happy to see you all. Cynthia, you just popped onto my screen. I'm happy to see you too. And I'm the co-founder, which means I help with the Institute of Next Level Leadership. And it's been a wonderful experience. All of you know my background, so I will skip that part. And I just want to welcome you and express my appreciation and gratitude for you all being here. This will be a fun conversation. Enely and I were talking about this yesterday, kind of going through what we wanted to say, and here comes John Dale. Hello, John. And it's really exciting. It's really, really exciting. I love this perspective on a way of being. I love it.
Yeah, it's very exciting to just be with all of you. You have no idea how much these events enrich our lives and gives us excitement. And we're going to talk more about that today. But here's an intention for tonight. We've been doing these events and talking about our programs. We decide, guided by Cynthia, thank you, Cynthia, for your feedback, we decided to change that and to offer events in which we can bring something valuable, bring something that you can take away. And if you're interested in learning more about our programs, please do so. We have programs starting next week and then again in October. But the purpose of tonight is to give you something new, something valuable that can support you in leadership. The title for tonight is Leadership, a Way of Being. And of course, I could tell you hours here of what leadership is, and that wouldn't make any difference. Because leadership, like love, it's something that we only know when we live it. You know, it would be the same thing as me telling you what a strawberry tastes like. I can tell you what a strawberry tastes like for hours, but you won't know until you actually taste your strawberry. So what we want to do tonight is talk a little bit about your taste of leadership and the very, very basic and very, very powerful forces supporting leadership. And some of you may recognize part of this because we have a whole class on this in our program. And what we're going to talk about is intuition and instinct. Intuition and instinct is often talked about as one of the same, kind of like this one inner force that kind of gives us guidance somehow let us know things. And it's kind of like one whole bundle of intuition and instinct. But as we talked about in our programs, intuition and instinct is very different, very distinct forces within us. So instinct, and we're going to be talking a lot about instinct tonight, is the animal in us, the matter, the human. And intuition, we call it the angel in us, if you will, or the spirit in us, or the divine, okay, the ethereal in us. So while instinct is trying to place us on earth, makes us survive on this plane, the intuition is flying away with ideas and inspiration and creativity and all that kind of stuff. And often those two forces are in somewhat of a tug of war inside of us. The more we buy into fear and survival and anger and shame, the less we're actually available for intuition, for direct knowing. And the more we are in the plane of direct knowing and and available to intuition, the less we seem to be actually doing the things we need to do here on this plane on Earth. Mike, I feel like you could contribute here somehow. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I do actually. In the context of leadership, we approach leadership from a place where it's not a rank. It's a choice. It's a choice that we all make, and we all make that usually in our awareness. We all make that in how we show up. We all make that in how we communicate. Do we listen to answer or listen to respond? In the past, I've referred to instinct as fear in motion. It's something they test for the moment you're born. I remember going to the infirmary or the little pediatric place when Caitlin was born, and the first thing they did was, and of course she jumped. So they're checking her instinct. It's the first part of the brain that actually develops. And so within the context of how Inely is positioning this, I believe you'll find it fascinating. I sure did. Thank you.
Okay, so let's keep on going. And if anybody has any questions, please just interrupt us. So instinct is often what takes us away from presence, from spirit, from being in that elevated, enlightened state of being. Instinct comes forward, and there we are. I'm hungry, or I'm tired, or I'm angry, or I'm annoyed, and that can be motivated by God knows what. It can be hormones, it can be, the bad news on TV, or it can be anything. But instinct is those incredible, powerful impulses inside of us that often take the lead inside of us. And all of a sudden they are leading us instead of us leading them. And there we are, leaking energy through our instincts, coming out of our sense of peace and our sense of presence, because these instincts are leaking our energy. So one interesting thing I thought we could do today, and a lot of what I'm going to share with you comes from the teachings of the Enneagram, which is a program that we offer, and we have one starting on August 30th, actually. So the Enneagram talks about different kinds of instincts, specifically 3 kinds of instincts. And like some of you have seen in the Enneagram, we all have our preferences. We all tend to go more towards one rather than the other, and so forth. But the point of it all is to become aware of it, to become conscious of it, to observe this in ourselves and others so that we can create balance. Okay, so the 3 kinds of instincts that we learn from the Enneagram. One is survival. Obviously, it's the self-preservation. And I'll tell you what the 3 are, and then we're going to go a little bit more about them. The first one is the survival, the self-preservation. The second one is sexual. And I like to call the sexual instinct also reproduction, because sexual instinct includes the erotic, but it's not only the erotic. It's not only about sex, but includes sex. That's the second instinct. And the third instinct then is social, the social instinct. And we've learned so much about it during COVID, and we'll talk more about that. So let's start with the survival self-preservation instinct. The survival self-preservation instinct is sort of like the feud of our feud and how we survive on this earth. So it has to do with our well-being, our health, our safety, our security, all that kind of stuff that makes us live, whether we are hungry or tired, or we need to sleep, or we need to take a shower, or, those things that we do to maintain ourselves. And there is 3 areas, if you will, within the survival instinct. There is the area of health and well-being, and this is how much care do I take in terms of my nutrition or my exercise habits, or how many hours do I sleep? It's like the health and well-being. How much attention do I give to my emotions and my thoughts, and how I heal them and how I bring peace to them? That's one area of the survival or self-preservation. The second area is money, time, and energy. How do I spend my money, my time, and my energy? And what are they supporting me in? Some people may enjoy spending their money and their time, buying a McLaren, Some people may spend their money, and that would be Mike. Yeah, he spends a lot of money buying old cars. Some people may want to spend their money and their time buying books and reading books. Some people may spend whatever it is. There's no right or wrong here. It's just an awareness of how am I managing this instinct, in terms of my time, my money, my time, and my energy. And the third part of the survival preservation instinct is domesticity. It's home life. How do I organize myself, my surroundings? What do I do in my home to support my survival, my self-preservation? And depending on our temperament, depending on our personality, we create all kinds of stories around this self-preservation survival instinct. So somebody may say, why am I going to spend time organizing my house and my drawers? I much rather, go on a trip or go do something else. So we tend to become dominant in certain instincts, and we tend to become blind in other instincts. And then, because we don't know we are blind in certain instincts, those instincts start leaking energy. There's something that leaks from us and we don't know what it is. And that's why balance becomes so important. Well, first awareness, but then balance. Because once we take care of the instincts that we are blind, all of a sudden there's such a sense of, there's a sense of relief. There's that flow of energy that comes back to us. All right, that gives us a picture of the survival self-preservation instinct. Do you have anything to add here, Mike? Anything comes forward to you?
I'm so not used to being muted, so I forget that I've turned off my microphone. No, I think you covered it perfectly, and thank you for using some kind of automotive reference in how you may want to use this energy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the survival self-preservation instinct is the most obvious one. We all know about this. We somehow live this every day, although we may not necessarily be aware of what is dominant and what's blind in us, and how can we balance this. And I'm going to give you tips later, but right now I just want to cover all the instincts so we can talk about it more as a whole. So let's move to the sexual reproduction instinct. Okay. Sexual reproduction instinct, like I said, includes the erotic, but it's not only the erotic. Sexual reproduction instinct is about desirability, competition, creativity. So think of a time, for example, where you really wanted something. Maybe you were a child and you really wanted something, and you were ready to, hit your friend and run and go get it and climb the refrigerator, if you will, to get that something you wanted up there. So that impulse, that attraction that takes you towards an object of desire, or a person, or a place, or a field of knowledge, or a vision, if you will, that is sexual instinct. It has an electric quality to it. It's something is calling you forward, and you're going for it. So it's like the field of this electric field, this magnetized field between us and something else or someone else. Imagine a person you fell in love with and you couldn't wait to see that person again. It's that magnetism is the sexual instinct. And so there's three ways of living this sexual instinct. One is attraction. And here, if you ever fell in love with someone, you know what that attraction is. That field of, I can't wait to be with that person. I can't wait to make love with that person. I can't wait to hug them or to kiss them. It's that field of energy, that kind of electricity. The second area of the sexual reproduction instinct, it's the name here that it's often used is edge or evolution. So it's that force that takes you to your edge. It makes you do things that you normally wouldn't do. It's your next step, your next level of leadership. It's like that attraction that takes you to your edge so you can evolve. You can take the next step. That's sexual instinct. There is an electricity there. There is a magnetism there that it's calling you towards certain places on earth. And I remember when I first came to the US, there was this true desire. I lived the US in my imagination since I was 15. And I came here when I was 27. So for many years, there was that magnetism that was happening, that was taking me to my edge until I finally reached here by myself with no money. And I'm still here today. So that's the second part. Now, the third area of sexual energy is called fusion and merging. It's when you finally penetrate, if you will. There's a penetrating energy. You penetrate the object of desire or the person of desire, and it becomes one. You become one with it. So like for me, the example of coming to the US, I dreamt of it throughout my teenager years and young adult. And when I was 27, I finally came here. So it was that fusion, that merging of myself with my place of desire. And then there I become one. That's all sexual energy. And this is valid for a person or for a field of knowledge or for a place or for a business. It applies to anything. And those are tremendous forces inside of us. And the beauty of becoming aware of that, yes, biobreak. The beauty of becoming aware of that is that we can observe ourselves and others as we navigate those impulses, those instincts, and we become more able to balance ourselves. What do you have here, Mike? Anything?
Yeah. And this really just popped into my mind. I can think of a couple of areas where I was out of balance with these. I mean, 2 marriages, 5 kids, and 7 grandchildren. I understand the sexual part of the energy, but the other one was early on. I just made this decision to reject poverty. I just didn't want to be poor. As a matter of fact, I was tired of being poor, and that literally drove me to the edge. It drove me to an early career I didn't really have any interest in, but that was the one that people were, making a lot of money in. The systems engineering, computer science part of it. And I think as we move forward in this, you'll discuss balance and how the balance contributes to, certain aspects. But I had never put it in that perspective before.
Yeah, what you're bringing forward is really interesting because there are areas where those instincts, get combined. Money is usually sort of like a self-preservation kind of instinct because we need money to survive on this earth. But to the extent that money also becomes the object of desire and it allows you to go to your edge and to be attracted to certain places or certain professions or certain careers, it kind of takes on the sexual instinct along with it. And
yeah. And you make choices that there's only two things I ever wanted to be. One was a coach, and the other one was a guitar player in a country western band. And I abandoned them both, and now I watch YouTube videos and dream about being a guitar player in a country western band. It's really fascinating. But,
well, you fulfilled the desire of being a coach.
I did.
You are fulfilling the desire of being a coach. I mean, in many ways, thank you for being my coach.
Yeah, thank you.
You truly are my coach in many ways. So, all right. So let's talk a bit about the social instinct. And the social instinct, I mean, this has become so evident to me in the past 2 years. We've been doing our programs for 2 years now. And we always talk with the participants how wonderful it is to be with them and how much energy we gain from this connection. And here, as I learn about the social instinct, it makes sense because it fulfills that instinct that is in all of us, which is the instinct of inclusion, of being remembered, being considered, being appreciated. This is a very real need inside of us. I mean, there are experiments and research done with babies who were deprived of being hugged, of being held, and the consequences that it brings to their psychological development. So the social instinct, it's tremendously powerful, and this need to be included, to be remembered, to be considered, to be appreciated, to be hugged, to be part of something bigger than us is ingrained in our being. It's instinctual. And so this is the field of we, where it's no longer me, it's no longer me and you, me or something else, but it's me within a context, within a greater context. Now, again, there is 3 parts of this instinct. One is, and I'm sure we all had this experience of reading the environment. You enter some place, and we call it reading the air. You just you enter some place and your receptors are all up, and you kind of read the energy, you read the vibration, and you know things before you even know that. Mike has a great example here.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this before, but let's just say Inely and I, we traveled to America for the first time. And Inely is a practicing devout Catholic, and I am an Orthodox Jew. And we are so grateful to be in America. We say, well, let's go find a place of worship, and let's give thanks to God for getting us here. And we're walking down Fifth Avenue. We come upon St. Patrick's Cathedral. We walk in, and I immediately know I'm in the wrong place. And Inely immediately knows she is in the right place. It's not that it isn't beautiful. It's not that it isn't peaceful and calm. It's just instinctually, I know I'm in the wrong place. So I say, Inely, you stay here. I'm going to go find another place and I'll meet you back here in 15 minutes. And that is, instinctual knowing before you know exactly why you know.
Yes, and very much motivated by our social instincts, also by the culture we are involved with. It's motivated by the context. So the second area of the social instinct is bonding and collaborating. And I like to think here as an example, my children. There's a bond that I experience, and this doesn't have to be children. For me, it is my children, but it can be your dog, it can be your cat, it can be a bonding that you have even with your environment. My meditation chair or my office, there is a bonding that I create here that allows me to collaborate with the world, it allows me to exchange. There is an exchange between me and this context that allows me to collaborate. So for my children, for example, I almost feel like I feel what they're feeling. If they're sad, I'm sad. If they're happy, I'm happy. And this includes the whole family, the home. There is a sense of bonding within the home or within our immediate family and those around us that is part of this social instinct. And then the third part of the social instinct is participation and contribution. It's like, what's my part in the whole? How do I contribute as part of the whole? So how do I contribute as part of this family? How do I contribute as part of this neighborhood? How do I contribute as a citizen of the world or whatever? What is my piece, my part in the whole? That's social instinct. It's almost also the connection that we have with our chosen family. See, because this is not about, okay, I need to be social. Let's go to a bar and have a few drinks. I mean, yes, you're going to go to a bar and have a few drinks with 300 people, but there is no engagement. There is no inclusion. There is no appreciation. There's no bonding. There is no participation. So we are talking here about the connection that we feel with those where we can learn from, we can exchange, we can grow. There is an appreciation, there is a consideration, there is a remembering, there is a hug, if you will, maybe not physical, but mental, emotional, spiritually. There is this chosen family. And this is powerful. And this is where I was talking about that this past year, the connection that we had during our program to meet with the participants every week, to be in that chosen family together, even though we were not there physically, it made all the difference because this instinct is still being taken care of. And often, the social instinct is what takes us into that place of service where it's not about me, but it is also about me because I have to take that place, I have to find my place in the whole in order to be of service. So, it is about me, but it's not about me. That's the service, the giving and the receiving, sort of like the umbilical cord. This is also another way to look at these instincts. It's like the survival preservation instinct is like the first chakra, the tribal chakra. The sexual instinct, the reproduction sexual instinct is the second chakra. And then the social instinct is the third chakra, also very much represented by the umbilical cord, the way we receive from the outer world and the way we give back. Anything, Mike?
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Some of the people on the screen I've known for a while, like Greg and Chad and John and Cynthia. And I remember meeting each one of them. I remember the first time I met him, and I'm a firm believer in that we are pre-wired to commune with each other, but not just anybody. We're actually almost intuitively looking for people that share what we believe in, share our values, share our principles, share our view of life. And like with Greg and Chad, both of them were contributed to me, my knowing of I am not crazy, or I am not alone. As long as there's a couple of other crazy people around, and this is good. And so you pursue those kinds of relationships. I spent a lot of time in class with John, and we probably know each other more than we know each other. And that creates this, that fulfills this thing here that you're just wired. I've used the example before. We've been in this form for about 50 million years. It took us 40 million before we could commune through agriculture, to where we could gather in large groups. And there is a reason why emotionally, ethically, economically, countries have formed natural borders, because those people, whether you agree with their view of the world or not, is irrelevant, but they agree with each other, and therefore they commune together. And a lot of the wars that occurred in Europe would draw. Well, I've been using the mute key, the space bar, to talk. Sorry. All of the wars that occurred in Europe were driven by it to return the infrastructure to its naturally formed borders, where people made a choice. I am going to live here. And then all of a sudden here didn't exist anymore. The border shifted, and they were communing with people that they didn't have that bond with.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. So the opportunity, oh yes, Chad.
This is such a great topic, and it just made me think about, there's so much of the issues in the Middle East were because somebody else came in and drew the borders. The British, and they decided they're going to draw new borders because they seem to make sense, and they go along parallels or latitude lines, and that doesn't make any, it didn't make any sense to the people who that were there. But then the other thing I was thinking about too is so much of the strife that we've been through forever, maybe, but especially in the last year, with diversity, again, reckoning, that is this idea that sometimes we have to, in addition to, recognizing our spirit mates or the people who we bond with, that not being limited by that, but by, that sometimes people won't feel like, a natural connection, but that doesn't mean that we should avoid that person or not connect with them, because sometimes that can be a place where a person we could really learn a lot from. Right.
Yeah, Chad, I like what you're saying, because that's where the social instinct and the sexual instinct kind of comes together. Because social instinct, yes, you're trying to find your chosen family, those like you. But the sexual instinct, remember that penetrating energy is actually looking for something that is different than us, that we need in order to get to that edge, in order to get to that evolution. And so we are usually attracted to those people, places, and things, and fields of knowledge or whatever, that it's taking us to that edge, to that next step. And it's a natural way of us expanding and evolving as beings.
Yeah. And you're actually transcending things, irrational beliefs. You're transcending, like in shame, from believing stories that others have told about you, to knowing who you are. And so the idea of exactly what Chad said is very, very important. because it takes deep awareness to know that. You know, it takes deep awareness to say there's something here that if I can transcend whatever my biases are, I can become more of who I am, and so can they.
Yes, that's a really good point, Mike. I wanted to talk a little bit about transcendence here, because often in terms of the instincts, these are such powerful forces in us that we do them or we don't do them, and we don't even know that we do or don't do them. Sometimes our friends tell us, but we can be blind to some of them, and we can be dominant to some of them without actually being aware of that. And so we are never really going to transcend our instincts, because these come in sort of like a cell memory level. They're always there. They're always going to be there, but we can harmonize them. We can balance them. And the way we balance them is by becoming more aware of our blind spots, finding ways of bringing the blind spots up. It doesn't help to tell us to do less of what we are dominant, because that which we are dominant about is naturally going to come. So try to tell us, don't do that. It just takes us to a negative place that brings no results. But result here comes from bringing awareness to where we are blind. So I thought about giving a little bit of time to that. How do we know when we are blind, and what can we do when we are blind? So, for example, the survival, the self-preservation instincts, which, just to remind you again, there's 3 areas: the health and well-being, money, time, and energy, and the domesticity. Okay, here it would be interesting for us to ask ourselves, what weird stories I tell myself if I take care of these parts? What do I tell myself when I don't want to clean my house? I want to avoid cleaning my house. What are the stories? Or I much rather go walk in the park. Or what is it going on in our minds? What do I tell myself when I don't want to look at my finances? Oh, it's so boring to look at numbers. I don't want to look at what stories am I telling myself that it's preventing me from taking care of these areas? And here are some tips in case there is some blindness in this area for you. Here are some tips. One is to cultivate more regularity. Cultivate more level of regularity. And it doesn't have to be big things. Start small. Oh, I'm going to just have my breakfast at 8 o'clock every morning. One little thing that can start bringing a sense of regularity. In our program, as many of you know, we have the results. We have the completion leadership form where we keep track of certain things. We also have the, what is it called? The intentional leadership form, where we keep track of certain things just to create a sense of regularity around our intentions. And those things are usually really simple or really easy to do. The other thing we can do for this instinct is visual reminders, post-its. Post-its, visual reminders to keep this instinct in balance. And of course, get help, a friend who does this well, a program that you take on things I can do, a coach, or someone that can support you in this area if you are blind, if this area happens to be a blind area for you. All right, now, is there anything you have here, Mike?
Are you looking for a confession or?
I just want to make sure before I go into the blind spots for the sexual instinct, whether you had
I'll tell you what came forward for me, and I hadn't really thought about this, but every once in a while, I sit in that chair behind me and I have a conversation with my future self, and ask some of the questions out loud that I have complete irrational beliefs about. How am I doing? What am I worried about now? I used to, when I was a kid, I worried about there wouldn't be any more 4-speeds left by the time I could have a car. I asked my dad what he was worried about. He said, I was worried that New York City was just going to fill up with horse shit. And because he was born in 1905, and there weren't many cars around, just a lot of horses on the streets. And so sometimes it helps me to have a conversation with that person. And it sounds kind of funny, but you'd be surprised what that person can say, in your mind.
Yeah, I also want to point out something interesting that you mentioned here, which is the future. The instinct and the intuition, they don't work in the future. They tend, like the instinct tends to bring us to the past, to experiences that we carry and memories that we carry. And the intuition tends to lead us to what we want in the future or how we're building from here forward. But we can only actually live this in the now.
The now, exactly.
In the very now. And often in the very now, and I've heard this from some clients, it's like, I really don't want to clean my house because when I'm 10 years from now, or when I'm in my deathbed, who cares if I clean my house? But the cleaning of the house is not about when we are in the deathbed, is about how am I living this breath, this moment, how balanced I am, and how much energy can I gather for myself now? Because unconsciously in this moment, there is a leak of energy that it's going on around me. It's often unconscious because I haven't taken care of these instincts. If these instincts are left ignored, they become weird. They become weird in us. So it's important to make sure that we cover them somehow. And in terms of weirdness, I mean, sexual instinct can become really weird if we don't address them. This magnetism, this electric energy. And there's so much in terms of taboos and stories and culture around sex and that energy. It can really become weird unless we recognize this is a natural instinct. It has the 3 areas I mentioned about: attraction, edge and evolution, and fusion and merging. And how can I balance this instinct? Now, I know when I'm blind in the sexual instinct because I start operating with an exaggerated sense of responsibility. I feel like I have to hold it all together. I have to procrastinate pleasure, if you will, procrastinate my own ecstasy. Oh, I can't do that until I take care of this first. Or I can't do that until I take care of this first. I can't go towards the object and the places of my interest and my attraction until I blah, blah, blah. That's where we are ignoring our sexual instinct. That's where sexual instinct becomes blind. And so a few things we can do here to bring balance is do a few things that are thrilling to you. No need to justify. This is a lot about what creativity is all about. Pattern interrupt. Try a different food. Listen to a different music. What brings fire to your soul? Those things stimulate creativity because it cradles our sexual instinct. Allow the body to move spontaneously. In our Enneagram program and in our programs in general, we have music and we move and we talk about, the movement of the body. That is one way of nurturing our sexual instinct. Notice when something or someone attracts you. Oh, yes, I am attracted to this person, or I'm attracted to this place, or I'm attracted to this book, or to this interview, or to this whatever. Notice that. And of course, accept offers for fun. You know, there's always that friend calling, oh, do you want to go out? Do you want to go to the beach? Let's walk at the beach. Let's do that. You know, take up some offers for fun. Those are ways that we can balance our sexual instinct. Did I forget anything, Mike?
No, good.
And last but not least, to hear the social instinct, and how do we know where when we are blind? Well, yeah, of course, we'll feel isolated, and that's where, you know, COVID gave us so much opportunity to pay attention, to really become aware of the value of the social instinct. But one way of dealing with the social instinct is think about, what are you interested in? What matter to you? What matter to you? And then talk about it. Then go find somebody to talk about that, somebody that appreciates that same thing. And you can talk about it, and you can learn, and you can exchange and listen and share and find meaningful connections. The social instinct is about commune and communication. We also have a class on commune and communication in our leadership program. That's the social instinct. It's about the communion. So those are ways to balance that. And what happens as we balance the survival, self-preservation, sexual, and social instinct, our lower chakras are balanced, and that energy starts rising up to the higher chakras. And so all of a sudden we are communicating from a different place. You know, there is intuition, there is space for inner knowing, ideas, creativity, you know, it starts coming up. You don't even know where it's coming from. And these upper chakras, loving, you know, these upper chakras become activated because the lower chakras are taken care of. We are not ignoring them and pretending that they don't exist. So we have 10 minutes for commune and communication. Let's do that for the next 10 minutes. I
want to use up 2 minutes of it. Really quickly, because I was thinking about this all day, and I'm going back to when Cody was trying to learn how to ride a bike, and you remember this because you had the patience of a saint trying to teach him how to do that, and you came in the house all frustrated. Go out there and teach that boy how to ride a bike. I said, okay, you know.
My very gentle self.
Yeah, right. You're doing an interesting impersonation of me, you know. But and so I went out and I talked to Cody. I said, listen, Cody, this is all about motion, you know. And so we went outside the gate of the house, and there's a little slope. I said, I'm going to hold the back seat, and we're going to go down this hill, and you're going to be in motion. He said, don't let go. I said, don't worry, I won't let go. We started down the slope. I let go, and he's just cruising on his way to a crash into the garage door. Okay? And it dawns on him that he's actually riding the bike. And he transcended from the instincts, I can't do that, to the awareness of his intuition. Well, of course I can do this. And with the balance between I can't and I can, I am, he turned the wheel and started pedaling and avoided hitting the garage door. And this all happened within 3 minutes. And you remember, you know, we went inside and he came out and he was riding a bike. And I think it was a great example on how when you get your instincts in balance, your intuition gets released, and it's so easy to say. Well, I'd be the first to admit it's not easy to do. And because that is an element of transcendence to me that has a life force in it. Okay, that's all. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. We now have 6 minutes.
I just want to point out we have an Enneagram program starting on August 30th, and we're thinking of starting an Enneagram level 2, where we talk a lot more about instincts, which we don't cover in the first program. But just to let you know that. And then we have the Leadership Mastermind starting in October.
Is this a good time to say hi?
Yes. Hello.
I apologize for being late. I'm at an emergency dentist appointment, but I am here. That's why I'm not on camera. But for some of you, I haven't seen you in a while. So good to see you. So good to see you. Mike, when you shared the story about when you, met Greg and Chad, it just kind of brought to mind the first time I met you. And I had already fallen in love with your wife. But you showed up for the summer intensive with Dr. Robert Holden. So you were in the group and with the class photo that we took, and you and I, we didn't really interact during that, but I was aware of your presence. And then when we ran into each other at the airport, which was crazy, but it just kind of, sometimes I think with the social instinct is really interesting because it's there, and then there's still other forces that are working, and it's solidified that this that working with you and Inely was something that I wanted to continue even beyond that program. And in the 2 years plus that I have worked with you both, I have watched my life transform, and found ease and grace. I was so stressed when I first started going to Italy for coaching. I was so stressed and my life was easy. Today, I'm a high school teacher, in the land of COVID, and the kids are physically back in the classroom. So, I've got my mask and my face shield and the whole little get up going on. But my mother asked me today, she said, how was school today? I said, it was great. Every day is great. So with that in mind, in any way, in every way possible, I'm just excited for this relationship to continue. I'm excited that you all are continuing to expand your offerings and being true to your word as an institute of next level leadership. You continue to take it to the next level and the next level and the next level for anybody that's ready to take the ride. And for that, I thank you. And if you're on this call, there's a reason. And I love you. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Seelove. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Greg, if you don't say something, I'm going to jump through the screen.
First, I really have enjoyed the clarity of the definitions and then the real world examples. And as I was thinking about the creative part of myself, where we go after what we want, I recalled a memory from when I was about 11 years old, and my family was living in Brussels, Belgium at the time. My birthday came up, I wanted a snare drum. My parents said, we'll take it under consideration, which was their way of saying no. So I wrote my grandfather. And when my grandfather retired from the Army, he was a procurement officer for the CIA. So he would send a letter, he would write my parents on a regular basis, but then all of a sudden, another little envelope would show up and say, for Greg's eyes only. And in it would be a comment, yes, the drum is ordered. Oh, it's back ordered. It's going to ship this such and such date. And finally, my mother said, "What are you and your grandfather talking about?" Because they would never open the envelope. And I said, "Well, you know, that snare drum I wanted, you wouldn't get me. He's getting it for me." And I came home from school one day, and my mom was in the kitchen cooking, and she looked at me and kind of went, "It's here." So, when you really want something, you find a way to get it.
Yeah.
So thank you for the clarity of your definitions. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. And I love your example because it shows us how sexual instinct is present regardless of age. I mean, this is a child. And often I think there is so much we create around sexual instinct that with age, we tend to forget about it. We tend to forget the preciousness of it and the importance and the aliveness and the electrifying energy that it can bring us. So thank you for your example. Little Greg is inspiring all of us. All right, well, it's 7 o'clock. I just want to let you know that we are deeply appreciating your support, your being here with us. And just to see your faces, it makes up our day, our week. And we love you very much. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great to see everybody.
Thank you. We love you. It's so good to see you all.